Hey there, this is going to be bold. You probably lose a lot of your games because you're playing passively and wait a lot, or your teammates do, so that prevents the team from taking the objective effectively. This guide is about how to detect when the team's speed is suboptimal, and what you, as a solo player, can do about it. Keep watching. Hello guys, and welcome to the Dojo. This episode is a game sense guide that was born due to the amount of frustration of solo queue players we see every day. Being passive is not necessarily a mistake, but being hesitant and indecisive is. The phenomenon is more prominent in lower ranks, but it can happen in high diamond and above as well. We're going to dig deep into the causes and provide examples which you can use to detect your own mistakes and correct them in game. Alright, what will happen if a team or individual members play too passively? Let's put the situation in perspective on the attacking side first. When you're attacking, you generally have the advantage of closer spawns and better counterpick potential. As you are the team who goes for the objective, you usually need one strong push to win a stage of a map. However, if you start losing players one by one, the taking of the point can be delayed by a lot. Hesitation on the attacking side commonly occurs when the team needs to go through a choke or break an enemy nest. A nest is a position where the enemy sets up and defends heavily with shields, usually allowing them full line of sight on the enemies. This is because it's inherently hard to get close to the enemies when they have advantage of picking the best position where they can set up. Playing passively means different things for different characters in a situation like this. When you're playing a tank character, your job is to create space, helping the whole team towards the objective. Creating space basically means that your DPS and supports can do their jobs without the need to pay attention to random or direct damage. Your first and foremost duty is that you outplay the enemy tanks. Holding up shields helps somewhat, but you also need to initiate, to allow progression towards the objective. Pay attention to the enemy tanks, and most importantly their ability usages. Some examples: don't fire strike the enemies if they have a Zarya, unless you're confident that the shields have just been used. Don't jump in with Winston until the enemy team is somewhat separated. You want to divide them and focus a single target without being focused by 6 players. With D.Va, you should dive any heroes who have an advantageous position to force them to leave it and allow the team to push with ease. The idea here is to be active with your presence and abilities. Don't just stand and wait for a miracle. As a DPS, standing in the choke and waiting for the initiation is one of the most tedious parts of the game. However, unless you're there to do damage to the enemy and their shields, they'll feel safe in their position, and rightly so. Needless to say, you need to pay attention to random spam damage coming towards you and posts not guarded by your tanks. One of the most important parts here is to not commit before the teamfight actually starts. Poke time should be used well, and only approach the enemy team if your own team progresses towards the point. There's no point in exposing yourself as a flanker or stepping in front of a shield in the promise of more damage, as you can get caught and eliminated. Allow attention to be focused on your frontliners, and use the distraction to pump raw damage into your must-pick targets. As a support, you'll be standing in the backline most of the time. Instead of healing minor damages, you can use the previously discussed poke time to do some extra harm to the enemy shields, allowing your team to progress faster. The things to pay attention to: keep your frontliners healthy or they won't initiate. Then make sure to heal anyone who's dumb enough to eat a lot of spam damage. Lastly, take part in breaking the enemy position. What do you think about the description of the attacking side? Any of these situations seem familiar? Can you imagine how you will fix mistakes if you detect them? Share in a comment below. Well, that was the attacking part. Next up, we're talking about the delay in defense. The situations are different because the passive play is your go-to style here, unless you run some kind of dive team against the attackers. Every second spent stalling the enemy team is well spent. As a tank, you want to make sure that you hold the line. However, you're not just a shield machine. If you're playing too passively, the enemy tanks will farm the ultimates more quickly, possibly locking you down before you can counterplay. Hit your abilities and try to keep the enemy pressured as much as possible. Make sure, however, that you're not wasting abilities. Avoid charging Zarya, for example. Don't use your own Zarya shield if you see the enemy progressing towards you. Staying alive is more important than the extra charge. Don't deplete D.Va's shield to eat random poke. Check what the enemy has and prevent their primary damage spells. You should still mainly focus on shielding, but be active. Pay attention to enemy snipers, as they can exploit your drop shields to claim kills. Always call if you're about to change positions or put the protection down. When you're playing DPS and defense, you can choose where you want to set up. This is a critical decision that you make, usually with a promise of high risk, high reward. You need to make sure that you change positions frequently or stay behind the protection of your tanks if you want to play it safe. If you're being targeted without protection, just quickly swap spots. The critical part of your job is to not be absent for a second. Your raw damage is needed to wither down enemies before they reach your team's position. While at poking phase, throw everything at your enemies, trying to get a pick. You can't be fussy about the targets, shoot everything that moves, but prioritizing targets that you're countering. For example, if you're a hit scan, lock on the enemy Pharah instead of the shields. If you're able to get 1 to 2 picks during the progression of the enemies, you're usually good to go. Avoid hesitating over targets. Make sure that you're continuously doing damage and being in a safe spot. When you're a defending support, you're basically doing the same as the attacker side. However, it's more likely that you directly get dived. So pay a lot of attention to your positioning and prioritize healing yourself and the other support before anything else. The rest is basically the same for both sides. Now that you know both sides, which do you think is more demanding and why? Share it in a comment below and fire up a discussion. We're not telling you that passive play is inherently evil. Not at all. We honestly believe that being passive is the go-to style. However, you need to be witty about it if you want to play well. Passive play means that you let opportunities rise and claim them, instead of rushing headfront to the enemies and spending most of your game time dead, or hesitating and allowing the excellent opportunities to speed by. This applies not only to your positioning, but ability usage and ultimate resource management as well. As we described earlier, you need to pay attention to how the game flows and try to punish small mistakes. These are the opportunities we're talking about. Don't risk your life for them, but try to gain advantage if one of the enemies makes a misplay. You also need to make sure that you're using your kit effectively. Winning team fights will get you closer to the objective, so don't keep your ultimates for big plays. It's usually more than enough to kill or save 2 heroes to win a fight. In case you need help, you can join our Discord channel and ask your questions from our community. Click the card right now. So, let's talk about practicing these concepts. The first and foremost thing that you want to make sure is to die less in your games. Pay a lot of attention to not making dumb mistakes. Pay attention to the details of how the game progresses and act according to the strategies that we described earlier. After you're able to die less, start looking at how enemies play. Reading them, learning their style, and predicting their next moves will allow you to outplay your opponents. Practice prediction. You can do so by telling yourself loudly what you expect to happen. This way you'll be sure to pay attention to your adversary and fix yourself if you make a mistake in your prediction. By doing this 100 times, you'll be able to read your rivals and outplay them safely. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We would like to ask you to like, share, and sub if you enjoyed this video. Join our Discord community if you have improvements in your goal, and participate in coaching and community events. Supporting us on our Patreon page helps us in maintaining the channel and gives you professional coaching in return. See you guys in the next one.
Join forces.